Shalom to you all. Good morning. This is Bill, and we get to start over again today. We get to find our place. We get to take our seat and lay at the feet of the Messiah as he teaches us his wisdom, the deep the deep riches of who he is and what he intends to do with the earth and with us. We have this honor every year of beginning afresh, beginning anew. And so, shalom to you all. Welcome. Join along with me. Come with me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this journey for you. And may we have the most strategically blessed and effectual journey that we've ever had with the Holy One this year. 5783, that is the number of the creation year that we're in. Of course, we've been in the biblical covenant year since spring. But this is the anniversary of the creation of the earth, and the creation of man, particularly on the earth, and that's why we do 2 new years. We have a new year for the covenant people and for our mission upon the earth. We also have one that we share with humanity and with all of creation. And we walk in these two worlds at the same time. Well, Shabbat Shalom, it is the Sabbath. It is the Sabbath of Parsha Bereshit. Usually translated sort of inartfully, in the beginning. We've probably become so accustomed to that phrase that it's shocking to know it's not really what Bereshit means. But we'll get to that in a little bit. It's Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the very beginning of the revelation stream, the very headwaters of revelation of the Holy One and his will and his ways, his words and his wisdom, and his wonder. And that's where we begin. Genesis 1:1. We will go more or less, the Parsha goes through 6:8. We won't get all of that done. There's no way we can accomplish all that. We've just come out, of course, of the High Holy Days, for those of you who are following the calendar of the Creator of the universe, as he has set it out in the Torah, in his instructions for life on earth. We have followed it, and we have come out of our sukkahs, out of our temporary dwellings and shelters that he told us to dwell in for 7 days. We have come back into the normative ways of life, the ways of day by day events and encountering our world and people within it. And that is where we are. So we're starting over. I like to say we're starting over at wide-eyed innocence. Hopefully that's what we're doing. Starting over with an open and inquisitive mind. Hopefully that's what we're doing, and not coming into this bleeding with a bunch of theology and a bunch of ideology and a bunch of philosophy and a bunch of stored up information that we misunderstand and call knowledge. So I hope we're coming at this, starting over this year with the Parsha Bereshit and the whole study of Torah, the instruction manual for life on earth given to us by the Creator, the fountain of all wisdom. I hope we're starting at wide-eyed innocence, and I hope we're starting with an open and inquisitive mind, and I hope we're starting with childlike faith, trust, emunah in the Holy One, our God. This season of time, the birth time of the creation itself, the ecosystem that the Holy One has given to us to dwell in and work in, this time is a good time for starting over. As we coordinate with our fellow man who is not walking on the covenant calendar, this is the season when all things began and begin again every year. Another year has passed, another Yom Kippur for us, another Sukkot for us, another harvest season for the peoples of the world. Well, we should now have a more mature, elevated, improved focus than we did this time last year. We have come another cycle around the sun. We have learned many lessons over the past year, so we should come in with a greater level of wisdom and a grittier level of determination to do the will and walk in the ways of the Holy One. We hopefully now understand the fragility of mortal life. How fragile mortal life is, how precious as well it is. Also, we should understand the gravity of what it is we are called to do while we live in this mortal body. We have a function to perform, a role, a purpose, and that should bring us some level of excitement and hope and energy as we start a new cycle. We have completed a lap, but we're not through. We're still going. Thank heaven we are still going, and there's still so much to learn, and there is still so much to do. There is still so much to experience, and there is still so much that we can do to influence this world for good. We are ready to start the cycle of elevation and life again. The cycle of elevation, the cycle of revelation. May we be wiser this time around. May we be more mature in our reactions to things that go on in the world. May we be kinder. May we be gentler. May we be wiser in all ways. And may we be more joyful as we carry forth the theme of the Sukkot season. May we go this year led forth in joy and carried forth in peace. And may we flow in shalom more than we ever have in previous years. Questions will be posed this week that will our natural inclination as we read these opening lines of Genesis, the opening lines of Torah, the opening lines of scriptural revelation. The questions will pop up into our mind. Where did we come from? Where did humanity come from? What is its purpose on earth? Why is the earth like it is? Who made it? Where did it come from? When did it get here? Why is all this the way it is? If creation is saying something, we may wonder, what exactly is it saying? If the creator of the universe is calling to us and has a plan for us, what exactly is he saying when he calls? And what exactly is that plan? Did all the beauty and each of the unique species we see around us just evolve haphazardly, some may wonder? Did it just happen out of primordial goo over the course of millennium, as atheistic educators propagandize all the time? But if not, if there was intelligent design, if there was a plan, if this is all part of a great scheme, then where did we come from and why are we here? From whom did we come? And for what purpose have we come into the world? These are questions that may arise, should arise during this period of time as we reevaluate, as we re-enter the revelation flow afresh and anew, wiser this time, hopefully. Here's the truth. Torah is the master's apprentice program for human beings and how to live a good life, a valuable life, a worthwhile life on planet Earth in the mortal body. Torah is a master's apprenticeship program. I know many people have taken up the King James language and called it the law. Oh, but if you understand what the Torah really is, it is the master lovingly pulling his apprentices, his disciples to him and saying, do you want to learn the secrets of life, my children, my disciples? Do you want to learn from me why you're here and what this is all about? Well, that is what Torah is for us. It is his master's apprenticeship program for life in a human being's body. This is an intense training program of wisdom. And it's about more than truth-seeking. Truth can be dangerous. Truth is not our ultimate goal. What our ultimate goal is wisdom. It is the ability to apply truth in ways that serve the Creator's purpose and fulfill his plan. So, our search this year of Torah will not be to acquire empirical knowledge. It will not be to get smarter than the average person on the street. It will not be so that we can look down our noses at them in some way and feel like we have more existential information and knowledge, and we're smarter, we're wiser than they are. No, we're brothers. We are all kinsmen in Adam. We are all kinsmen in Noah. We are all tied inextricably to every other human being, and we have no ability or right to declare ourselves superior in any way, certainly not intelligently, certainly not informationally. And we are instead here to serve the kingdom of heaven and fellow man and the creation ecosystem that we have. So it's not about getting empirical knowledge or learning a bunch of truth. It's not also about learning moral or ethical principles. Moral and ethical principles are a figment of our imagination. They're something that human beings dream up. I know it's startling to say, and it's shocking, it's intentionally shocking. Because the issue is not whether we're moral or ethical. The issue is whether we are following the will, the ways, the words, the wisdom, the wonder of the Holy One, and doing what He designed us to do or not. So it's not about developing or maturing moral or ethical principles. It is about instead aligning our thought life and our speech and our focus of energies and our activities and our reactions, focusing and aligning all those things to people and to situations with the divine will. We are here to serve Him. He is not here to serve us. The world owes us nothing. He owes us nothing. We owe Him everything. And our calling to serve the world and its ecosystem and its humanity is what drives us forward and what gives us a reason to be and exist. Torah is a river of life. Do you understand where your water source is? Do you understand where the source of that which nurtures your being and gives you reason to live is? It is the Torah. The Torah is the river of life. For it all reveals the truth, the passion, the purpose of the Holy One. The purpose of life is given through the Torah, and in its pages, on its script, in its Hebrew letters, we find the reason we are alive and what will make the world a better place and make us better people to serve it. It is the headwater. Torah is the headwater of all real knowledge. All important knowledge comes not from some form of human endeavor or education or information source. The truth of all real revelation and wisdom comes from the Torah. Torah teaches us the fear of the Holy One, as it said, the understanding of who He is, seeing Him for who He is, and understanding He sees us for who we are. That's the fear of the Holy One. And that is what Torah teaches us. Torah is the ultimate love story as well. The symphony of healing sounds the Holy One desires for His creation to be as He intends it to be, with Edenic beauty, fruitfulness, shalom. And the epic love story that Torah represents is the Creator promising and fulfilling His promise to bring creation back to where it was designed to be in fullness, and to do the same with mankind. So it's a playbook of sorts, of song of creation and the seasons. It's all these different things. It is the story of mankind and God's plan from the end to the beginning, or from the beginning to the end in this process. So our Father, it's also our Father's personal training manual. He personally wants to train us and tell us how to live life on earth. So we start with these questions. Again, a little few more questions to ask you. First question is, if there is a creator, and of course we know there is, but some people don't think about it very much or try to resist it. If there is a creator, though, how do we connect with Him? Or more importantly, because it's not about us anyway, how does He connect with us? How does the ultimate, eternal, divine, immaculate, incorruptible Holy One connect with flesh, with mortality, with corruptibility? How does He interact? What will be the interface? What will be the portals through which He chooses to connect with us and talk with us and give us guidance? Well, we'll find out many of those things over the course of our year, some of them in our course of our study today. Is connecting with Him a good idea? Yes, we'll find out, but it's the essential idea. Without Him, we can do nothing. If we choose to reach out to Him, do we do so on our own terms? Do we develop an app for that, a religion for that, a series of meetings? Do we start this process, or is it initiated by Him? And if it is initiated by Him, are there protocols we need to know to be able to maximize our interactions with Him? These are things we'll learn during our course of our study this year, and somewhat in our study today. How can we distinguish, someone may ask, how can we distinguish the Creator's voice from all the other voices we're hearing speaking? How can we know when he's speaking as opposed to the flesh of man, the arrogance, the ego of man, or the voices of even some spiritual occult, like we have a focus on this time of year as the season of Samhain ends, and we have Halloween being focused, and this emphasis on the dark spirits. Why do we distinguish the voice of our Creator from all this voices coming at us out of the darkness and out of the masses of humanity? How will we know his footprint when we see it? What is recognizable about his ways, and about his words, and about his speech, and about his behaviors, and about his conduct, and about his plan that is clearly identifiable as his and not belonging to either men as a species in their fallen state, or belonging to some dark occult force that we fear may be out there? And what do we need to know about ourselves in order to make this journey effective? What do we need to know about the obstacles and the challenges and the detours that we will face along our way before we begin the journey? What do we need to know about our own distractibility factors, our own indices of lack of focus? What do we need to know? What do we need to know about our own limitations in the flesh before we start? Those are some of the questions. But here is a summation from Psalm 119 that I want to give to you. It's a psalmist cries out in the midst of all these questions and so many more that he had. He says this: "Oh, how I love your Torah. It is my meditation all the day." There is such peace, there is such wisdom, there is such joy, there is such maturity in that cry. Let me read it to you again. The psalmist cries, "Oh, how I love your Torah. It is my meditation all the day." So this year, as we begin our Torah studies, as we begin our journey through this great wisdom chamber, how can we interact with this ancient text and its author in a way that will enhance the value and impact of our lives on earth? How can we put the discipleship life skill protocols that Torah gives us to maximal use in our service of the world, of the people, and of the places of the world, and of everything that he created, and put us in a position to influence? How can we do that? Well, that requires us to get our call to worship on, to get ourselves focused. So if you know the call to worship, the Baruch, would you please join with me in song? Otherwise, just listen. Let the Hebrew words begin to waft into your spirit, awaken your spirit to this great calling of the Torah. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And so now, with our call to worship spoken, we pray. Open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from us. Context. Where did we leave off? Well, this is where at the beginning we have to go back to the end. Deuteronomy 34, at the very end of Deuteronomy 34, it says, "There has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moshe." Well, that's at the very end. We're talking about there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moshe, whom the Holy One knew face to face. That we might all share that designation, that description with the Moshe. Whom the Holy One knew face to face, paneh al paneh. In all the signs and wonders that the Holy One sent him to do, in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before all of his servants and all his land. And not just by the signs and wonders, by all the mighty power and the great awesomeness in which Moshe operated in the sight of all Israel. So Torah's last session ended with a sense of what amazing things we had just seen and what amazing things Moshe had introduced to us. And now he will begin to start again. Shh, take your seats. It is time to begin again with Bereshit. Bereshit is the Parsha that contains the prelude to the greatest love story of all time, the story of the Creator of the heavens and the earth and his beloved creation. The part of the leading man in this great story, the immaculate protagonist, as I like to call him, will be played by the Holy One himself, the one who wrote and who directs this play into every aspect of our lives and our world. The part of the leading lady, on the other hand, the mother of all living, will be played by the earth side of creation and all that exists on the earth side of creation. It's not going to be Mother Earth. It's not going to be nature. It's going to be creation. Nature implies that this just happened, that it's just natural. It's not natural. It's created. And please understand the difference. And so the leading lady is all that especially mankind, that we have been designed to serve his purposes here on the earth. Well, some individuals and nations will play the role of antagonists in this drama this year. Others will serve as supporting cast members to the male and female lead. And don't forget, the one who stands in the wings, the one who keeps all the action sequences moving, the one about whom it's all been written. The Holy One is going to appear through his Mashiach. He will also be opposed by Nakash, the serpent. But let's get into the text. I'm going to read it a little bit, a few words in Hebrew, then I'll give you an English translation so that we can follow along. But I want to speak to your spirit in the Hebrew, and I'll speak to your mind a little bit, and your soul, your will, your mind, and emotions in the English. So we'll have both. First word, Bereshit. And usually it's translated in the English in the beginning. Again, it's not a correct interpretation. It doesn't really mean that. It really would say in the context of a shaking, in a setting forth of vibrations and frequencies, in an emanation. Bara Elohim. Bereshit bara Elohim. Bara Elohim, the bara is the verb, Elohim is this actor, the great creator, as he designates himself in this story through Moshe. The creator, the translation would be the creator cut or carved, separated out. In English, you usually read it, in King James English, as God created. But some people get a weird idea that they created something out of nothing. That ex nihilo is kind of a Greek mindset, a very Western idea. It's not that. It's that he cut and carved what was there to bring forth something. And the shaking, as he shook it out, things began to fall out. It's not about time. It's not about beginning. It is about the actor doing what he does to bring about the plan that he has to give. So, Bereshit bara Elohim. We'll talk about what bara means maybe later. But what did he bara? Bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. And bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. English. And the Creator carved out, or set in place the heavens, the offsetting parallel world number one. Ve'et haaretz, the earth, offsetting parallel world number two. He began to take what was and begin to set them apart. Heaven and earth were no longer unified in the initial sense, but they were separate and apart. The heavens and the earth began to have separate lives and life forces and life sequences, and yet there's something else to be had. In verse 2 of Genesis 1, this can be a try again. V'haaretz hayeta tohu vavohu. V'haaretz hayeta tohu vavohu. And the eretz, the earth side, was without form, was chaotic and a wasteland, and was void. It was vohu, empty, directionless, purposeless. So we have this, as we have this division of heavens and earth take place, what is that the earth is so far useless. It hasn't developed into anything yet. The Holy One hasn't put his mark of creativity upon it the way he operates in the heavens. And so it goes on. And darkness, a complete lack of light that prevents life and activity, was on and over the face of the deep, the tehom. And so we have this problem. We have a creation, this breaking out of heavens and earth, but we have something cloaking the earth. There's something that must be a veil that must be removed, because no life can take place. No growth can take place. The plan cannot be fulfilled for the earth until we have something pierce this darkness and bring something new. So the next thing we see is Varuach Elohim merakafet al penei hamayim. And so in English we might say it's like the breath of the spirit of Elohim, the spirit of the Creator, brooded and hovered and fluttered over and stirred the churning, turning face of the waters, what we see in the surface of the waters of the earth. All earth was covered with water at that particular stage, and it just stirred as the breath blew upon it and brooded over it and fluttered over it. We saw a movement take place, another set of shakings in the waters that would cause forth things to break forth. And it goes on. Vayamar Elohim Yehior. The text tells us. Vayamar Elohim Yehior. In English, and the Creator said, light be. Veyehior, and light was. Light, or the shining, pulsing brightness that illuminates, that gives forth hope and perspective and potential. That was. It just was. He spoke it, and it was. So we have this thing about Elohim. He speaks, and what he says takes place. The verse goes on. The text goes on. Vayarei Elohim et haor kitov. And the Holy One, the Creator, beheld and considered the light, the emanating, pulsing energy that brought brightness, and he considered it goodness, kitov, for purposes, for good purposes, for purposes that will bring forth good things. This is part of his plan. Vayabdel Elohim bein haor uvein hachoshet. And the Creator then separated, divided, put a boundary between the light and the darkness. V'kara Elohim laor yom. And he called the light yom, day. V'lechosek kara laila. And he called the dark night. We see these, this is the way he works. And we're going to get to know how the Creator works through these methodologies. He goes on. V'yehi erev v'yehi boker. And there was evening. A covering with a texture that's substantive like darkness. And there was morning. An opening, a cleaving, a breaking forth, letting the sun shine in. There was erev v'yehi boker. There was a morning. And together they were yom. Echad. The first day, it says in your English Bibles. They were the first day. But Hebrew means so much more than numerology. It's not just about the first day or one day. It is a day. Yom Echad means a day of unified oneness, pulsing with energy that pulls together. So what he separated, made fission. There is a force that is drawing it back together and making it one. If you understand the force of Echad, the force of, it's like gravity. While they're separate things, the gravity is pulling them back together, and yet there is force that's pulling them apart. There's this tension between the different parts. So there's a closeness and yet a distance between the heavens and the earth now, between light and darkness, between Tov, that which is bringing forth the plan of the Holy One. And we'll learn later what we call Ra, which is that which is fulfilling the intents and the purposes of man in his fallen, broken state. Basic truth that we need to understand from this opening lines of the Torah is that we don't invite the Holy One into our world, a world of our own design, a world of our own making, a world of our own ownership. He lets us live in his world, in his ecosystem. We are not here to be served by him or by our fellow man. We're not here to be made comfortable. We're not here to be made happy. We're not here to pursue happiness. We are here to serve the Creator. We are here to fulfill his purposes. We are here to humbly and responsibly and enthusiastically play the role that he has assigned to us in his grand plan for the mankind as a species and for creation as an ecosystem. Neither he nor creation owe us anything, beloved. We owe him everything. For the breath of life, we thank you. For the gift of a heartbeat, we thank you. For the pulses that emanate from our brain into our nerve centers and our limbs and our body, we thank you. For the privilege of living on your earth, in your ecosystem, doing your will, we thank you. Amen. Now, the fact that we are here for him and he's not here for us, the fact that whether we believe in him or don't believe in him, whether we like him or don't like him, love him or don't love him, is not our choice. We will have to bear the consequences of that because he is who he is. Some settle into this truth and embrace the assigned roles and rules of engagement that he has set for us, and in so doing they find meaning and purpose and ultimately exquisite transcendent delight in this. I hope that's where you are. But others chafe at the reins of the Holy One. They buck hard against, he's like a divine rider on a horse, and the horse bucks against the weight and the nudgings of the rider. Well, that's what people do. They buck hard against the divine rider's promptings and nudgings. They kick against the pricks, as the Messiah spoke to Shaul of Tarsus on the road to Damascus. They spit the bit. Many people do, and they murmur and they complain, and they rebel against the plan and the purpose of the Holy One all the days of their miserable lives. Well, that's not what we want to be. I hope we've learned from maturity that our joy, our transcendent delight is to do the will of the Holy One. As Mashiach said, as he quoted the psalmist, I come in the volume of the book, O Holy One, to do your will. I delight to do your will. Okay, so the lens through which we will look at the Torah this year will be through the mindset of humble stewards and sharecroppers, servants of the King. Consider the parable of the sower and the seed in Matthew 13, the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, also from Matthew, the parable of the talents, also from Matthew. Consider what Yeshua taught. We are humble stewards. We are sharecroppers. He is the owner, and he is the one who gets to determine what the harvest should look like and who would do what in the harvest. We are sharecroppers. Sharecropping is a covenantal arrangement. It is a contractual relationship with regard to agricultural land. What happens is a landowner allows a tenant to live upon and use the land, but in return, the landowner gets a negotiated share of the crops that are produced on that land, and gets to be the promoted and recognized as the owner and blesser of that land. Now, an effective sharecropping arrangement requires strategic pre-planning, and it requires frequent tenant and owner coordination and communication if it's going to produce a series of sequential harvests that are appropriate to the land, to the tools, and to the climate, and to the market. So we need to be in touch with this Elohim, creator that we've been reading about. We need to be in line with his plans. We need to be in communication with him. We need to be in coordination with his plan, not doing our own thing. Stewarding, you see, in which we are stewards of this environment, this ecosystem, is a form of service, specifically involving the taking possession of the property of another in trust, and then faithfully caring for that property, valuing it, putting it to maximal use, making it productive in accordance with the owner's instructions, in accordance with the owner's protocols, in regard to the owner's agenda, and doing so solely for the owner's honor and interest. This is what we're here for. Not personal ownership, not trying to acquire and do things our own way, not to get self-actualization or to get rich. No personal involvement other than we will find the joy and the delight in serving the King and interacting with him along the way. As it says in the Psalms, the earth is the Holy One's and all it contains, the world and those who dwell in it. As it says in 1 Corinthians, now it is required for those that have been given a trust that they must prove faithful. Okay, so let's just generally consider the outline of Parsha Bereshit. The first thing that happens that we should realize is happening to us, and this book is designed to do, is to introduce us to our Creator. Introduce us to the one we are the sharecroppers for. And also to introduce his ecosystem, the elements of his ecosystem, the tensions that are present, the offsetting realms that are involved in his ecosystem, that he and how he intends for us to interact with them and with him. We need to be introduced to the Creator, the ecosystem, and the protocols. The second thing will be the Sheshet Yamim, the 6 days. It's a song. It begins with Genesis 1:2 and continues all the way through chapter 2, verse 3. It's a song, the first song of the Torah. A song designed to take us by repetitive phrasing, by Hebrew parallelism. He begins to take us and speak to our spirits about our purpose and the purpose of the ecosystem. So the song is the ecosystem's ballad. And the great Creator's ballad of who he is and why we're here. Then we are introduced to, as the last part of the song, to the Sabbath, the seventh day. The idea that the Holy One does works in sevens, and the idea that he desires for us to be enter into his level of rest, enter into more than rest, enter into his blessing, enter into his holiness, because this will fuel the recurring cycles. This will fuel us during the recurring cycles. He wants us to be nurtured, nourished. That's why he gave us the Sabbath, for we can do the work that he's called us to do and be restored and refreshed. And not only restored and refreshed in our physical bodies, but in our spirits. And the fact that it has to be the seventh day, not any day we can rest, is because he infused the seventh day with a special blessing that is in the spirit and a special holiness, a kedusha energy that is in the spirit as well. Moving on from the Sabbath, after chapter 2, verse 3, we begin to be introduced to Gan Eden. The ultimate state of man is to come to this place. That's our destination, but it's given to us as our origination point. The Holy One took man, formed him, did something special to man that he didn't do with the rest of the animals, breathed his life into him, then put him in the Garden of Eden to show him what life is supposed to look like. And of course, knowing in advance that man was not going to be there all the time. He was going to have to try it his own way. He was going to have to learn protocols over a course of time, seasons, years, millennia for that matter, before he could come back to this Gan Eden, and we would see the ultimate state of man will be as at the first. The divine plan for the destination of humanity is set forth in chapter 2, more or less. Then we are given the lesson of the options. There are 2 ways we can go in life. There are 2 sets of voices we can follow. There are 2 sets of trees we can eat from. There are 2 sets of pathways we can walk in. And how well we do and deal with those will depend on how quickly we find traces and clues to get back to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden. And then we'll find, as a result of learning, there are different pathways we can walk, different voices we can listen to, including the voice within us and the voice of the serpent around us and the voice of the clue, the hunger for knowledge, which is independent of wisdom. Then we find that there will be introduction of the idea of offense, of the experience of offense, human offense at one another. Cain will be offended by Hevel. And there is a dark, dark energy that corresponds to the light energy that comes from offense. There is no good that comes from offense. There's no health, no life, no productivity, no fruitfulness that comes from offense, other than the dark energy of reproducing that which was darkness and covered the eretz in the first place. And so we learn the hard lessons of offense and the dark energy that flows from it. And then we learn the lessons of seed, the fruitfulness, and how the Holy One has created seed to reproduce generation after generation until we can get back to the Gan Eden state, until we have overcome the dark energies and the offenses, until we have overcome the tendency to listen to and be distracted by the other voices, to hunger after the knowledge as opposed to hungering, as we should, for wisdom and revelation from the Holy One, to follow pathways of men or follow pathways of ideas or ideologies or pseudo-intellect instead of following pathways that are set out for us in the Torah and the ways of the Holy One. So the lessons of seed and bloodline and generation, the Holy One desires to redeem mankind in all of his bloodlines and in all of his generations, in all of his households, and all of his families. But we have to participate with that little bit by little bit. We learn seed reproduces over and over and over again until the ultimate fulfillment is given. And finally, we are introduced to the divine pruning surgery protocols. How whenever we go to a certain stage to protect his ecosystem, to prevent complete destruction of what he has designed and made before we get back to Gan Eden, he will implement strategies. And we're going to learn about the flood more next week, but that's the first of the levels of strategy, the highest level of strategy, which he did at the beginning. Then we'll see there are other strategies he uses to bring us back, to do the surgery necessary, to get us back to where we need to be and belong. These are the basic outlines. Let's spend the next few minutes we have. And let me just check my time. Oh, we've got a few moments. I want to introduce you to the great landlord, the one we serve, the one who designed it all, the one who is worthy of it all. He introduces himself by a certain phrase. It may surprise those who really put extra emphasis on names. He doesn't use one. He introduces himself by what he does. He introduces himself as Elohim. Elohim, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Yod, Mim, Sophie. Elohim. Now, most, I think, traditional Western or religious people will tell you that that comes from the word El, a noun, supposedly meaning strong or strength, healthy one. I think even if you see Strong's or something, concordance, which doesn't really give you definitions, it gives you interpretations, gives you opinions of men, then what you're going to see is that El would be related to a noun, El, strength. Elohim would be related to, and it might be plural even, might be more than one of these L's. Well, then that gives you all sorts of weirdness as opposed to the echad nature of the Holy One. You might think there are 2 or 3 or 4 or multiples, and so you misunderstand the entire revelation stream of the Hebrew language if you take Elohim and you think it derived from El. It did not derive from El. El is a noun, and Hebrew nouns always derive from verbs. There's always action at the bottom of it. And so what is the Hebrew verb? There are 2 theories. One is that it's Ahil or Avil, and that is strength that is strategically applied, particularly to bind things together that are separate. And it's sort of often related to the word for a ram, which shows you that strength to bring the herd together, the flock together under his leadership. And so that's one way of potentially that might be the verb, the verb of what a ram does, to exercise strength, to use and demonstrate his strength in order to bring things that are separate together and fulfill a purpose. Well, that's one. The other one is the Hebrew verb Allah, and it's not like the Arabic Allah designation. It is a different word. Allah in Hebrew means to make full. To round off, to bring to a place of overflowing, to where there's no lack or absence or anything missing in this process, but instead there is a fullness and overflowing. And if that would be the case, if that's the verb that is the root, then Elohim means he who speaks things that he determines should be, and then causes them to come forth as he said they would, to keep operational, keep engaged. He's continually engaged. He's continually pouring into a cup that's continually overflowing. He's fulfilling promises every day in new ways every time he does it. That's who he is. Elohim. So causing us to run over and purposely applying strength to bring independent things together to form a functional whole that serves a purpose. That's the kind of the place. So if we get this idea of who he is, let's look at what the psalmist says. The psalmist says, the Holy One looks down from the heavens upon the children of Adam, the Ben Adam, to see if there are any who understand, who seek Elohim. Are any of you seeking that? Is there anyone who understands that he is all in all? Is there anyone who understands that he is trying to take that which, and he is taking that which is independent and separate and binding them together as a functional whole that serves a purpose, and he is making it full to the point we'll get back to garden. Do you understand who he is? Are you seeking him? Are you seeking that one, that Elohim? Well, do you understand his purpose for mankind? What is the Holy One, the Creator's purpose for mankind? What kind of blessing over and empowerment of man has he given? What does it mean when he says that he tells us to be fruitful? And we English read multiply, to become great, to expand. In Hebrew, what does it mean that he gives us dominion over the different species of the Haaretz realm, of the realm that had been void and meaningless and purposeless, that he gives us? And in English we read dominion. What does that mean? Does it mean to be rulers and like some sort of kings, or does it mean to serve in ways that bring out the best? Well, we'll maybe have a chance to look at that. And what are the Creator's, sorry, I have to know this. What are the Creator's assignments? What is man supposed to do upon the earth? If we have dominion, as we call it, what are we supposed to do? And he gives us in Genesis 3, or Genesis actually 2, he tells us, he puts us in the garden, and that's our first source. And then to abide, to serve it, and then to shamar it. In Hebrew, the verb is shamar. It means to value and cherish so much that you carefully guard and watch over and take care of something. So he called us to serve his creation and all of its ecosystem aspects and mankind, and to treasure and cherish all these things as well. We are not here to be angry judges. We're not here to be sulky, sullen people. We are here to be servants who see the potential the Creator made in both people, even when they're doing things that are immature or improper or just plain dark. And to see the good potential and begin to work toward that and begin to keep protecting and serving and preserving all the way through. Then we're going to learn about the idea of what makes man different than animals, or what can make us into good influences, positive influences on our world. And it is the Creator's own life breath. He breathed into Adam the neshama. Other animals just had a nephesh, a mind, will, and emotions, instinctual drives and appetites and urges and fears, and that's what ordinary animals have. But he breathed into man, and particularly those who would respond to him. He continually breathes into man his nishmat hayim, his breath of life, his breath of lives, of replacing, replenishing, of refurbishing, of renewing the earth in its fullness to bring it to its full potential. We will read in Parsha Bereshit the first prototypical life instruction. He's blessed us. He's told us to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. He's put us in the garden to tend and keep it. He sends us forth eventually to tend the earth and take care of the thorns and the thistle world. Wherever we are, he is in charge. He is sending us out with instructions. And the prototypical life instruction he gave us while before in the garden, keep in mind, is do not eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't try to separate out the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. Understand they are one. They are being held apart, but they're also being drawn together. There is a unity in that which we might consider good and that which we consider evil, and we'll also realize that good and evil are not what we think they are. It will take a while for us to get that. It's not morality and immorality. It's not practicality and impracticality. It's not that. It is about whether it's the will of the Holy One or whether it's the will of man. We will learn the pursuit by the Creator of man's heart, how the Creator does not ever abandon his creation or mankind, how he keeps pursuing. Cain, the story of Cain and Hevel in particular, not just him, but it started with Adam and Hava. We'll get to Cain and Hevel. And when Cain slew Hevel out of offense and all this dark energy, and he released that because he had run up in a culture where they had not valued the presence of the Holy One. When that happened, the Holy One did not forsake him. He pursued him. He followed after him. This is the prototype of what's happening with us. He has a plan, and we are each one uniquely designed, created, with some role to play. Perfect, and he wants us to play that role. He does not want to judge us. He does not want to condemn us. He will if necessary, if we give him no option, if we give him no hope that we will ever recover. He will do that, but his purpose is to pursue us. He believes that what he planned in us is a good thing, and he will bring it to pass. And then we see, in connection with that, the Creator's redemptive strategy for man. The Holy One is always planning how he's going to redeem mankind and restore creation to its original intended state of beauty, fruitfulness, and shalom. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the universe's creator and sustainer, the one who calls himself at the beginning Elohim. He will eventually, in this Parsha, also use the more common understanding. I'm not going to pronounce it, but it's spelled in Hebrew Yod, He, Vav, He. He does it in conjunction with Elohim. Yod, He, Vav, He, Elohim. Who is this? What if we don't know him as well as we think we do? All our religion, all our theology, all our studies that we've done, all of our preaching and teaching and listening that we've done, what if we still don't know him as well as we think we do? What if there's so much more to him than we have ever even thought, much less considered or known? What if his name is not a magic word like abracadabra or open sesame? What if that's not what his name means? What if his name involves energy released that will change the world? What if he is more about what he does and how and why he does it than about what he's called by us? What if he's more about a grand, redemptive, and restorative plan than he is about supporting organized religion? What if he's not about nations or institutions other than as those things may be useful to his plan of redemption and restoration? What if he is supposed to be the one who leads in the great dance of life for each individual, for every community, for every family and every household? What if he's the one who's supposed to be taking the lead in the dance of life? And what if we, instead of leading, are the ones who are supposed to follow? What if his will needs to be done, not ours? What if this is not about us getting to heaven when we die, or even having a good life on earth, or living long in the land? What if this is really about bringing about the plan of the Holy One for his ecosystem and for the species he created and empowered? If we understand who he is, we have to understand what he does. What he does is the key to who he is. The first thing we're told that Elohim does is he baras. We'll also see that he rakafs, he amars, he speaks, he badals, he separates, he divides. The rakafs is to move with great emotion and passion. Bara means to find and cut and dissolve and break things apart, and then hold it in separation. We see this. This is who he is. He's always about this great creative process. He is so creative. He's a master craftsman. And we understand that if you understand his handiwork, and we are part of his handiwork, as are the heavens and the stars and the skies, if we understand these handiwork aspects, we are in awe and reverence of him and delight in his being. And why we find our exquisite delight and joy in serving him, because how wonderful it is just to know him. Well, the Holy One visualizes something deeper than we can. He sees a level of potential more than is currently manifested. That's the beginning point of his doing what he does. He sees. The Holy One sees. He sees you where you are. He sees us where we are as a culture, as a population. He sees your household and your bloodline as it is right now, but oh, he sees so much more. He sees the potential he designed into each of these things and where each one could serve in the grand purpose of redemption and restoration with just the right word, with just the right touch, with just the right movement or brooding, with just the right separation from things that are unhealthy or dark in the energy form, then he can bring this about. So the first thing about the Holy One that we need to know is he sees. And what he sees is marvelous and wonderful. And what he sees is not depressing to him or is not doomsday. What he sees is Eden. Now, in finding the Eden in us, that's our job, to align with him, not to insist that he align with us. Beyond seeing the great potential, the Holy One, Elohim, begins to strategically, according to a plan and a protocol, interact with us and everything else in this creation. He is always hands-on. He interacts with us. He moves. He sends vibrations, an energy into and around the object, the person, the place. He does all this strategically in a way that will create, that will make it responsive to his voice, or at least give it the option of being responsive to his voice. There are always two options. And one is the way of the Holy One, and one is the way of darkness. Which one will you choose? But he always makes the way of the Holy One, the way of light, available to us. So his vision, and then his engagement, his interaction. And then his protocols are that he speaks. He operates through speech. He speaks forth a calling out, and a karaz. As he called the day, the light day, and the night Layla, and the darkness Layla. As he did these calling, he calls forth. What is he calling over your life? What is he calling out of your life? What is he calling into your life? What is he calling? What is his call? His words that he's speaking forth, they're calling out. They're coming to you. Where is light? Where does light need to come into your, yehi or into your life? Yehi or into your thoughts? Yehi or into your emotions? Yehi or into your relationships? Yehi or into your life situations and your challenges? Yehi or into your health and your physical body? Yehi or let there be light. Well, what is he speaking and calling into your life and out of your life? What chosek, what darkness is he trying to break off of you? Or break you free from? And what break your family free from? Break your bloodline free from? What is he calling out? What is his message for this hour, for your person, yourself, and also for your family and your bloodline? And after he's done these things, he has visualized, he's visioned, he's interacted, he's engaged, he's spoken, his calling out of what's coming, what's to come, and what's to go, and what's to be more and what's to be less. Then he applies the energy of divine will, and he places a boundary line. He puts boundaries, in fact, that will preserve what he has gained in you and prevent the incursion of reintroduction of what has been broken off of you, and he's taken away from you, the darkness, a barrier between the divided portions. That's his protocols of providing. And now let me talk to you about light, because the rest of our time together, just a few moments, will be about yehi or, let there be light. Or, we translate it as light. Or is a Hebrew noun derived from a verb which means to release electromagnetic energy in waves. The effect of it is to illumine, to brighten, to enlighten, to give dimension and perspective, to give definition, to give clarity, to infuse transformative energy in, to bring about a photosynthesis, as it were, as it is in plants, but also in us, to give to light to whatever objects the Holy One is trying to release the energy into. Wherever you are, whatever state you're in, whatever state you consider yourself in, what the Holy One sees is a light bearer, a vessel in which he can infuse light. And now is the time, this Torah season that we're in, this Torah year that we are engaging in. let him fill you with light. Let him say over you, Yehi, or, and then open your heart in the deepest way. Open your eyes, open your life in every way, every aspect of your existence, and let the light come in. Let the sunshine bathe you. Not the sunshine of the yellow star, the sunshine of the Holy One and his plan. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next week.